Hello, everybody, and welcome to 2016 and a new start, a new year of Life Group Resources. And we're really excited to grow together and to share the Word of God together, to pray for one another, and just grow in our groups. So we hope that you have a brilliant year. If you're joining us for the first time to a Life Group, welcome. What we often do is have a little video that sometimes links to Sundays, sometimes doesn't, but a little presentation, and then your Life Group leader takes you through some questions and all that sort of stuff. So we hope you enjoy it, and we encourage you to stick out the term just to see how it goes. So in this term 1, we're talking about a series called Born for This, where we actually want to ask the question, what's the purpose of life and of the purpose of my life? And so for 9 weeks, we're talking about this, but we're doing it in like part 1, part 2, part 3. And I won't yet give away what part 2 and part 3 are, but they're very exciting. But the first 3 weeks, which is part 1, is called Meet the God of Purpose, where we actually want to talk about who this God is. And so we're really excited about it. And I remember when I was a bit younger reading a book called Who Made God and Why? And I thought it was a great book title. I'm like, if the author's confident enough to answer that question, they've done pretty well. And I don't really remember what the book was about, but I remember it not answering the question. But what a goodie. Who made God, and why did they do it, or why did God get made? And so I can't quite get to that level of qualification yet, but I can tell you what God's like and what he's doing, which may give us a little bit of an answer that satisfies this whole God thing if we're on a search. When you look at the scriptures, the Bible, what it talks about, when God is talking about his Son, God the Father talking about Jesus, when Jesus talks about God, when the Holy Spirit talks about them, when they talk about the Holy Spirit, what we can see for sure is there's this incredibly close. You couldn't get any closer in terms of the knittedness and the closeness of the community and relationships. It's honoring, it's glorious, they boast about each other, they love to be together. It could not be more brilliant and close and loving, and yet somehow it's not boring. They're never bored in one another's company because it's a dynamic love, it's a dynamic relationship. God is a dynamic God. And so what we see is that they're so close in their relationship with one another that they're moved to expand constantly. So what I mean by that is this: if God is so beautiful in his relationship with himself that he's moved to create beauty. And so we see the creation of the universe and the world, moon and stars, animals, all that sort of stuff. God is also unbelievably organized, and so he creates structure. There's laws of the universe and there's laws of science that literally hold the universe and the world together, because that's who God is. Because he's so relational, he expands in his relationship. And the best earthly example we get is when two loving parents have a kid. They love each other so much, they want to extend that relationship and family. And that's why God creates humans, because he longs to expand his community. And his desire for us is that people would live in that close relationship with God, the way God lives with one another. And I'm not lying. It says that in John 17, where Jesus is praying for us. He wants the purpose for us to live in that community. He prays, may we be one in God, just like the God are one with one another. What an incredible prayer. So God's purpose for our life is for us to live in him and to be like him. And the Bible calls that the glory of God, the glorious nature of who God is. He invites us into that. So we see a couple of scriptures in Colossians where Paul's talking about when Christ lives in us, it's the hope of glory. And when my life is wrapped up in Christ, that's for the glory of God. We were made to glorify God. It's just a little bit different to how we think it. So we've moved from the purpose of God and what he's like to our mankind's general purpose, which is to glorify God. But again, it's different to how we immediately react. Because if you have a human reaction or look at a human lens of glorifying God, it might sound like, hey, do we exist to make him feel good about himself, or do we exist to make him feel better than he actually is? Well, no, he can't be better than he is as God, and he doesn't need anything, which we'll read about in a second. But rather what it means to live for the glory of God, for our life's purpose to be about the glory of God is this. It means ultimately our life is meant to be in that same relationship and closeness, that same beauty, that same organization, that same expanding relationship and missional relationship, to go on a mission with God. That's the purpose of our lives. And that is what we mean when we say the glory of God is our purpose. Let me read from Acts 17 to help qualify this a little bit. And it kind of talks through what I've been saying now. The God, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, who made the world and everything in it, is the Lord of heaven and earth, and he does not live in temples built by human hands. He is not served by humans as if he needed anything. He doesn't need anything. But rather, God himself gives everyone life and breath and everything else they need. From one man, he he made all the nations, that they should inhabit the whole earth, and he marked out their appointed times in history and the boundaries of their lands. God did this so that they would seek him and perhaps reach out for him and find him, though he's not very far away from any one of us. For in him, in God, we live and we move and we have our being. As some of your own poets have said, we are his children. And suddenly maybe things start to click into place for our lives. God is a purposeful God who has a purpose for my life. And I might not know the specifics right now, the job, the city, the relationship, whatever, but I know that my purpose involves being in a relationship with God, knowing him, becoming like him, and impacting the world with him. Isn't that glorious? Then you feel like you were born for that. And if that's kind of exciting for you, that's what we're going to be talking about for the next little while. So we're going to break into groups in a second. And we don't just want to talk about purpose, although we will do that. We actually want to give an opportunity on Sundays and at Life Group to listen to God, for him to speak to us about our purpose, and pray for one another. And so we really hope that it's a great term for you guys as you explore why you were born and the purpose of God. So enjoy.